won't try and convince anyone that marijuana is good for the general public. It's clearly healthier to breathe air than THC-filled smoke. Marijuana is a vice that the world has to address, and it's our responsibility to minimize its damage on our society. That being said, the United States should legalize marijuana. Talk about a total 180, right? I'm not proposing this so I can smoke a bowl every time I have a hangover. And it's not so I can increase Domino's clientele. If we can all just put aside our predispositions and stereotypes involving marijuana, then I can begin to explain just how beneficial legalization could be for our citizens. America exerts a tremendous deal of effort enforcing marijuana laws and punishing its perpetrators. According to the UCR program, nearly 900,000 marijuana arrests were made in 2007, a dramatic increase from the 300,000 made in 1990. The silly thing is that this dramatic increase in marijuana enforcement has had virtually no effect on the number of marijuana users. In fact, the number of annual marijuana users jumped from 20 to 25 million in that same span. The fact of the matter is that we live in a culture where we've been structured and programmed to disobey authority with a certain nonchalance. Most of us can admit to drinking under the age of 21 or driving over the speed limit simply because we feel like it. Considering the negligible impact on marijuana use in past decades, it's significant to note that 2 out of 5 8th grade students, 2 out of 3 10th grade students, and 4 out of 5 high school seniors reported marijuana as easy to get, according to the Monitoring the Future survey in 1992. According to the Washington Examiner, approximately 12.5% of all inmates in America are arrested for marijuana charges, and half of those are solely for possession, according to Professor Myron, a visiting professor of economics at Harvard. John Getman estimates in his Lost Taxes and Other Costs of Marijuana Laws that marijuana enforcement cost local and state governments approximately $10.3 billion in 2006. He also estimates that marijuana laws in general cost taxpayers $41.8 billion annually, considering that the illicit marijuana market is worth about $113 billion. About half of the marijuana used in the United States is smuggled in internationally. Thus, with marijuana legalized, we could concentrate production domestically, creating jobs and much greater tax revenues. With much greater tax revenues like excise and sales taxes, the fiscal responsibility would be shifted from all taxpayers to only those involved in the marijuana industry. Consider this for a moment. If we were to legalize marijuana, tax it, and regulate its distribution, we could deem it illegal to be sold to minors. Under the current system, a youngin can approach any drug dealer he knows, and the only requisite involved in the sale is whether or not the right amount of money is there. However, under a legalized scenario, a youngster under the age of 21 wouldn't be able to saunter over to his nearest dispensary and purchase a couple of grams. Admittedly, most minors would probably still persist and succeed in obtaining marijuana, whether it be through the help of an older sibling or through the purchase of a fake ID. But at least there would be 1 or 2 more obstacles impeding the path between a minor and the drug. Also, though the gateway theory is extremely difficult to quantify, it's plausible that it may be linked to the connections made in the black market. Such a theory is supported by Jay McCoon in the publication Addiction. The basic premise is this. If an individual is interested in buying alcohol, he or she may find alcohol along with other legally sold entities. However, if a person is interested in buying weed, a dealer may sell that marijuana along with harder illegal drugs like cocaine and heroin because they're all deemed illegal. With marijuana legalized, the markets would be separated. Marijuana would be separated from its harder legal counterparts, thereby possibly lessening the effect of the gateway theory. So, given all of the unwanted impedances provided by prohibition, why isn't marijuana legal yet? What a lot of it comes down to is inertia within the judicial system. Marijuana has been illegal since the early 1900s. People are used to it. They see no real urgency to change what they've become accustomed to. Most people just aren't aware of the nitty-gritty details that make legalization such an attractive option. Most people only think of the wary, red-eyed stoner dude chilling in his mom's basement, making no real contribution to society. This stereotype has created a taboo element amongst the public, when most people don't want to mention that alcoholism can lead to things like deadly car crashes and ruthless violence. Also, marijuana has been perceived as addictive ever since the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. Though I don't question its addictive qualities, I would like to make relevant that cigarettes and alcohol have both been proven to be quite addictive, yet both remain quite legal. Also, the addictive nature of marijuana has not been conclusively proven to be based in psychology or chemistry. Judge Richard A. Posner, a widely respected federal judge, has been quoted saying the following, open quote, "I think it's really absurd to criminalize the possession or use or distribution of marijuana. I can't see any difference between that and cigarettes," close quote. Let's also consider the people who may directly benefit from prohibition. Police unions and lobbyists can get paid huge sums of money to combat marijuana and its associated legislation. For instance, a particular firm headed by a lobbyist named Lavelle was paid nearly $500,000 to combat Proposition 19 in California. He was paid by local police unions, according to a Republic report. Police unions can use the money that taxpayers put forth for the sake of marijuana enforcement and use it to pay for policemen's vacation days, overtime, and so on. This provides a huge incentive for them to keep marijuana and its associated legislation the way it is. If we can truly understand the benefits of legalization, then we can overcome this inertia and corruption within the political and judicial systems, and real, distinct progress can be made. So, how do we finally go about making marijuana legal? I propose that dispensaries be constructed in a system similar to that of the Netherlands coffee shops, where dispensaries may not have more than 500 grams in stock at any given time. They may not sell to anyone under the age of 21, and they may not sell more than 5 grams per person per day. Any violation of these will be grounds for the revocation of a license. The owners would have to apply for a license through their respective states. The growing of the marijuana, the production, would be primarily domestic and coordinated by the Office of Agricultural Affairs. Now, it's significant to note that some enforcement will still be needed to prevent the illegal distribution of marijuana. However, the vast profits made from taxing it and the significant decrease in enforcement needed would allow a humongous reallocation of funds and resources to much more urgent concerns. I propose that the billions of dollars made available be funneled into anti-drug education programs. Since enforcement seems to have had no effect on marijuana use in America in past decades, it seems that proper education is our best bet at minimizing its harmful effects on our society. Okay, this all sounds right and fine. But when you take $113 billion of drugs out of the hands of organized crime lords, they're gonna turn elsewhere. With marijuana legalized, the black market will be forced to shift its focus to harder drugs, like cocaine and heroin, to compensate for the loss in profit. There's really no good way to combat this shift. However, the funds accumulated from legalizing marijuana can be used to improve and strengthen the enforcement and punishment of those involved with these harder drugs. The basic gist I'm getting at is this. Americans are clearly going to enjoy marijuana, Mary Jane, weed, reefer, pot, ganja, grass, blueberry yum yum, danky dank, whatever, whether there are laws penalizing these users or not. So we might as well profit off of this use, and from this profit, America can focus its efforts on the harder, more dangerous drugs prevalent in our society. I know it sounds like a crazy, strange, and very foreign idea, but legalizing marijuana is really the best way of minimizing its harmful effects on our society. And if I can smoke a bowl, order Jimmy John's, and watch a couple episodes of South Park without feeling guilty about it, well, that's just a plus. Thank you.